On today's show, it's all about sex toys. Hey, I'm Jeff Scott, and I want to welcome you to the Love and Sex podcast. During this show, we are going to discuss everything relating to sex and relationships. No topic is out of bounds, and we are going to keep things honest and real. While I'm not a doctor, I'm going to share my experiences, mistakes, and successes to help you live your best life. Welcome into the Love and Sex podcast. It's Jeff and Allison with you today, and we're here to talk about sex toys. Allison, one of your favorite subjects?
I think it probably is, yeah.
Yeah, I was thinking it might be too. Before we jump into today's show, don't forget to head down to the show notes where you can use the link to join the private Facebook group for the Love and Sex podcast. And don't forget to head over to Amazon where you can pick up your copy of The 7 Principles for Making Marriage Work by John Gottman. As many of you know, this is one of my favorite books, something that can really help every couple out there. It gives you great tips and techniques for better communication with your partner, as well as better conflict resolution. And that's always really helpful. We also have the link where you can head over to Pink Cherry so you can pick up some sexy items for the bedroom, whether it's just for you or you and your partner. Certainly use that to bring some fun times. Allison, sex toys. There was a time, and this is what I remember. I just think, I go back to when I was a kid and I'd overhear the adults talking, right? And it was kind of like sex toys. It was more like women had this choice of a really one vibrator. Maybe it was, a couple different sizes that they offered, but it was like the same color, same shape, same everything. But it just seemed to be one of those things where it was kind of aimed at the lonely housewife or the single lady who wasn't getting any action.
Yeah.
Right. And like she was the one using this toy, and there didn't seem to be very much openness about using the toy. It was kind of this very private thing. Maybe she had a friend or two or something that she shared it with, but a lot of women didn't even do that. So I feel like it was very secretive, a lot of secrecy about using sex toys. And I think that has really changed a lot today, where people are much more open and honest about using them. What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, no doubt about that. I think we both have the same image of what the sex toy vibrator scene was like several years ago, which was lonely housewife, not having her needs met, or single lady, not having her needs met, using one of these generic vibrators. Come a long way since then, obviously. The market is huge. Every shape, size, color, texture, tons of different types of sex toys. And certainly, you and I have talked about this before, it's really much more of an item that's brought into the bedroom for a couple to use together.
Yeah, absolutely. And you bring up a good point. I mean, we talk about the limited selection, 20, 30 years ago, but you go on sites like Pink Cherry now who sell these sex toys. And I mean, there is all sorts of options. I mean, you could literally be on the site for hours trying to pick out something. There's vibrators that come in all sorts of different, like you said, shapes, sizes, and colors. And then a lot of them now have these extra little features on it, right? So you might have something that penetrates the vagina, but there's an attachment to it that also stimulates the clitoris and or the anus. I mean, it's like a pre-probe vibrator, right? Or dildos. Dildos have really come a long way over the years, which, like you were mentioning, shape and texture. So dildos now, right, they come like with different curves to them to better access the G-spot. They come with extreme realism compared to what they used to be, right? They kind of have they mimic like veins and different things that would happen naturally, right? With a penis in the skin and those types of things. And of course, you can only replicate skin so much. It is still like a silicone type of product, but they do a really good job, don't they?
Yeah. I mean, there's endless opportunities there with the different aspects of the toys and the different things they can do. It just really adds a little extra spice.
And then, of course, I mean, aside from just vibrators and dildos, they have all sorts of new products like vibrating tongues that can obviously simulate oral sex for a woman. You can also use these to you place on the nipples, and you'll get like a suction type of feel, which is another type of thing that kind of simulates the mouth, right? Uh, we know that there's also things. One thing that we have is like the sex torso, right? So this is an actual like silicone toy that you can get them in different ways. You can get them just like a lower half, so it would just kind of be like the pelvic area, the penis, and maybe just a touch of like the upper thigh. Ours is like a chest with a stomach, a penis, and it's got a little bit more thigh to it. Now, they're not like a full human sized torso, it's a scaled down version, but really what it's meant to do is give a base or a surface for the woman to ride on, right? And that's essentially accomplishes that goal.
Right, so I call that one the hands-free version. So I can be riding on that, and then you still have your two hands and everything else free to do whatever you want. I still have my two hands free to do whatever I want. So that one it mimics there being another human there, by having totally hands-free, can ride on it face forward, face back, vagina, anus, however you want to do it. And then it really also helps if you want to mimic the double penetration too.
Right. So even like the dildos and the vibrators that we're talking about that come in different shapes, sizes, and colors. Same thing with the sex torso and the penis that you get with the sex torso. And then, of course, if you're a guy out there, you can get a sex torso that comes complete with boobs and a vagina. And some of them are shaped like in a doggy style position. Some of them are shaped in a missionary style position. Then you can get the kind of the multi-gender sex style, right, where it comes with a penis and boobs. So, whatever floats your boat, whatever does it for you, that can kind of be a toy for both of you, I suppose. But just a lot of fun. It's very unique. We've never seen anything like that. I wonder what women 30 years ago would have thought if they had seen toys like that.
Yeah, exactly. And that one too, to the point you had made earlier that there's different shapes of the torso. There's also different sizes of the penis, but you can get a smaller penis on the torso, and then there's attachments that you can put on it if you want something a little bit thicker or meatier.
Right. So that's really what we did, right? We got the torso, comes with like a 5-inch penis, but my thought process when buying it was it would be something that we could use both anally and vaginally comfortably. So we use it without the penis sleeve for when it goes into the butt. And then we have basically what they call a cock extender. It's like a silicone thing that you can actually trim with scissors to whatever size you want. So it's kind of adjustable too, which is kind of cool. But it just slips over the penis on the torso and makes it much girthier. Adds a little length to it too, maybe an inch and a half based on how I cut it, I should say. But you got to be careful because it does hang over like the penis on the torso, and then that part that sticks above it is kind of flimsy. It's really flimsy. So you want it low enough where there's still some rigidness to it where it'll insert, because if it's too flimsy, you won't be able to insert it.
Yeah. It won't be hands-free anymore.
Right. Yeah. It won't be hands-free at all. But I mean, these extenders, these penis extenders are something that regular men can use on their own penis if they wanted to add a little length to it or add a little girth to it. But it works really well on these torsos too. So that's a great way to go if, that's a thought of yours and you're thinking about something like that. I think, and let me know your thoughts on this too, Allison. There's a lot of conversation when it comes to sex toys about how comfortable people are using them, right? Like women fear, this is like something I like, this is something I enjoy. Maybe I'm new in a relationship, or maybe it's a relationship that's been going on for a while, but your partner's just kind of in the dark that you use sex toys. Like, how do you approach it with them that you're using them, right? And a lot of guys have a lot of problems with the thought of their partner using sex toys because there's a lot of insecurity and fear that comes with this. Like, well, what's the problem? Am I not good enough? Am I not big enough? Am I not doing it for you? Am I not doing something right? It's kind of crazy. There's a lot of fears like this and a lot of insecurities, isn't there?
Yeah, and it's hard oftentimes for women to orgasm just with vaginal penetration. So there are definitely women who use toys to assist with that. I would think the conversation would look slightly different depending on how far along you are in the relationship, if you've already used toys or if you're looking to introduce them to the bedroom. Or like for us, when we met, I already had some. So the conversation was easy there because I said, hey, I have these. These are something we can use together.
Yeah, but
And
you could have very easily had hidden that from me, but you didn't. You were very upfront and honest about it, which I appreciated. And I think that's what more couples need to do. But I just think to that point, you had them in a bag in your closet. You didn't have to tell me, right? You could have hid that. And I think a lot of women would do that.
I kind of forgot they were in the closet then because now they're in the drawer. But you're right. They were in a bag in the closet.
Now we have a
And-
room to hold all of our
We have
collection.
a separate wing of the house. But I thought it was something be fun for us to use together. So I think that's probably why I was pretty open with you about it from the beginning, because it was never something that I was hiding or doing without you. And it's also not something that I needed to be sexually satisfied. It was an extra, like a bonus for us to do together.
The
And-
enhancement, right? That
An
we're always
enhancement.
talking about.
Yeah. And you obviously jumped right on board because the collection has tripled in the time we've known each other.
I may have added to the collection to I don't know,
Just slightly.
just to have a little fun with it. I mean, obviously Allison, as we've talked about before, has told me her fantasy is double penetration. So, I just figured what better way to kind of, role play that situation and having some variety, and it can just make for some fun in the bedroom.
Yeah, it definitely does.
There was in psychologytoday.com. It's, great website, one of my favorite websites for a lot of information, but they had done a whole study and article on men's interest and men's insecurities when it comes to the use of sex toys with couples. And it's really kind of funny because I'm reading the article, and as I'm reading the article, they're talking about this doctor, Michael Reese, and he did this study on heterosexual men and their sexual satisfaction when they use sex toys compared to those heterosexual men who have never used a toy. And the doctor came out and said that the men who used the sex toys had an overall lower sexual satisfaction compared to the men who didn't. So I'm thinking, wow, that is really interesting
Yeah, it's
because,
surprising.
that wasn't my experience with us using sex toys together. I thought, like you said, it enhances it. It does something a little bit different and just kind of, expands the exploration of what we're doing. And I think that's exciting and fun. But then as I read through the article and read the whole thing, what I came to learn was the study really wasn't that great because the doctor didn't really measure their sexual satisfaction before the use of the sex toys. So you had no baseline to go on, which to me seems kind of shocking that a doctor doing this type of survey would fail to do that. That seems like, survey or study or research 101, that you need a baseline. How do you compare it to anything if you're not establishing that baseline?
Yeah, it's hard to use that number without knowing the baseline. It doesn't really mean much.
No, I mean, it becomes very subjective at that point, right? And then there were studies that have been done later on, and it's actually shown that, yes, men do have a lot of fears when it comes to sex toys being in the bedroom, right? That's the initial reaction, right? Again, am I not doing something right? Am I not enough for you? Do you need something bigger? What is the reason why you want to use these sex toys? Can I not satisfy you? And like you said, to your point earlier, a lot of women cannot reach an orgasm just through vaginal penetration. I believe it's 20 to 30% out there can. So every 2 to 3 women out of 10 can reach an orgasm through penetration. So if you're not lucky enough to be one of those women, which you aren't,
I'm lucky.
you need that little extra stimulus. And so having that clitoral stimulation, that anal stimulation with a toy is going to be a great way to go about that. But the studies that were done later on that were much more comprehensive and much more professional in the way they conducted the study showed that men who use sex toys with their partner, their sexual satisfaction actually went up.
Yeah.
So you got to be very careful about what you read, right? We talk about this all the time on the internet. If you're looking to find a certain answer to a certain question, you can find whatever answer you're looking for.
Yep.
You just got to look hard enough and long enough and you'll find the answer. So you got to really kind of be a little bit discriminating when it comes to what you decide to use and what you decide to discard when it comes to the information that you're looking at. The other thing that they found with men who used sex toys on a pretty regular basis with their partner, they found that these men were scoring higher on their overall erectile function. They were scoring higher on their orgasms and the functioning of their orgasms. Their sexual desire and sexual satisfaction had increased. And this was all compared to men who never or rarely used sex toys with their partner. So I think that that's really telling about what sex toys can do for the men as individuals, but also as the couple.
Yeah, and that's been the experience that I've had, that we've had as well. So that seems in line with what I know.
Yeah, I mean, there's just no arguing or disputing that information because that study was actually done where they could actually measure that, right? They had the baseline and then they measured after the use of the sex toys. So that was a much more objective type of study where the information was much more concrete and detailed.
Yeah, that's a complete survey.
The other thing that's really interesting that they found out in these studies were that couples who use sex toys together also tended to fare better in terms of maintaining more passion and sexual desire in their relationship, in addition to just overall having a more satisfying relationship.
Yeah, you know what? We've talked about this ourselves as well, but using those toys puts you in a little bit of a vulnerable position at times if you're the female, right? So you're letting your man use a toy on you in a way that you may not use it on yourself, whether it be harder, faster, a different position, a different way. And the level of trust that you have there with your partner for that is huge. So it definitely gives you an opportunity to grow closer and trust in a different way. But you also are having a lot of fun. And that's also obviously wonderful for a couple. You just feel close. It's just an opportunity for your sex life to get even spicier and more fun.
And I would think it's also fair to say that as a general rule, for most couples, right, in this situation who are using sex toys together, it's not like, you know, you start dating this new guy and they have no idea that you like sex toys. And all of a sudden you go up to the bedroom and wham, you just break out a drawer full of dicks, right? It's like, or other sex toys, right? It's not like that's how it happens and everyone's just like, oh, cool, you know, and they're all on board. Usually these things happen with discussion, right? And communication. And that's what's important here. And I think that's what's important about these couples who use them regularly and they see more passion and sexual desire and overall better satisfaction with the relationship because there's a better communication taking place between the couple because they're talking about the use of sex toys. They're talking about what interests them from a sexual desire standpoint. What turns you on? What doesn't turn you on? What do you like? And these are all conversations, like you said, when it comes to sex and these topics, they tend to make us feel very vulnerable. But having these conversations is going to really go a long way in building a more trusting relationship with your partner, building more openness, and just, again, overall better communication. And those things tend to lead to relationships that are more satisfying.
Yeah, absolutely. I agree.
So one of the best things that couples can do is, you know, if they decide that they want to use sex toys together, they're starting to have those conversations. I think it's really important that, especially I think for the woman, right? She kind of already knows, like, yeah, I'm into the sex toy thing. I like to use them. You know, I've used them in the past or whatever. But she needs to be very sensitive to the fact that her partner may have some serious concerns, right? May have some serious insecurities about the use of the sex toy. So I think it's going to be really important that the woman maintains a very open mind and open line of communication where her partner feels like he can come and express his concerns to her, right?
Of course.
And on the flip side, whatever her response is, he needs to be open and accepting of that too and respectful of that as well. So there is a real give and take there with understanding why each person, whatever concerns or insecurities they have, you really just got to make sure that you take the time to understand each other's point of view, right? I mean, it's just so essential. We see this with everything we talk about.
Yeah, that communication is important no matter what the topic, and that certainly is can be very sensitive for some, and just needs to be tread lightly and be open and honest.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, those are like, you just can't say it any better than that. I mean, and it doesn't get any more simple than that. Just being open and honest about it is really what it's all about. And 86% of women say that sex toys enhance their sexual experience. And that's the word that we're always saying that we love, right? Enhance. A lot of these things that we talk about with relationships just serve to enhance the experience. It's not about taking over for someone, it's just about enhancing the experience. It's not about trying to make someone feel bad or feel worse or feel inadequate. It's just enhancing the experience. And when that happens, it's just better for everyone. Everyone's on the winning side of that. I mean, we use a sex toy, right? It's a vibrator. It's like a vibrator slash dildo, really.
Has like a suction cup on it, right?
Has a suction cup on it. Most of the dildos that we have suction cups because you can stick them to a wall. You can put them in a shower if the woman wants to use them alone. But they're fun to put on the wall and stuff. You can do different scenarios with them. But we have one that's like, it vibrates and does like 7 different functions, right? I mean, it'll swirl. It has like a turbo mode.
It's got a couple different speeds.
So,
it's got a lot going on.
Just as the woman's about to hit orgasm, you can hit the turbo mode and I guess really ramp things up or something if you can time it perfectly. But like that toy is kind of cool because from the man standpoint, what we'll do a lot is we'll use this toy in conjunction with me and do like the double penetration in the vagina, right? The double stuffer there. And that's enjoyable for you, is it not?
Of course.
Maybe you can speak to that.
Of course. Well, and it's interesting because that's not something that was ever something that I had thought I would enjoy. It was never on my bucket list. And with all the different size toys that we have, you tried it. I think the first time was with the harness, which is a toy we haven't talked about just yet. But
yeah, we'll have to get to that one.
It's a harness with a very small dildo on it. And that was a real realistic feeling because you had the dildo attached to you in the harness. So the motion was all at once, and that felt very, very real. And then you surprised me once with this dildo slash vibrator 7-speeder with the double vaginal penetration as well. And it is off the charts. Like that just feels so amazing because you have the double feeling. It's like a double, very full feeling. You have the vibrator going as well. You can feel the vibrator. It's on you too. So your level of enjoyment is higher as well as mine. And that's just a really perfect recipe for a great time.
Right. And I think, what we've learned with that, and we'll circle back to the harness for a second. So this is like a little like, the harnesses come in a lot of different styles and different things, but ours is just like a real basic one. It comes with like some thin straps, like nylon strap types things. And it just goes on. And there's a spot that like for the guy that comes up like from your butt underneath your balls to the side of your balls up. But then there's like a little silver, like metal ring on the front of it. Like there's actually 2, because you could actually put 2 different. Well, one was actually meant for the male penis actually. And then one is meant for the harness, but I don't put myself through the ring. I just didn't find it all that comfortable. I suppose it probably makes it a little bit more secure, but I just get it real tight and then slip a dildo into the ring that's above me. And like you were saying, right, it allows for double penetration. So like you can do it like doggy style with the real penis in the vagina and then the dildo in the butt. You can do it missionary style where now the real penis would be in the butt and the dildo would be in the vagina. Yeah. So it allows different things, but that's one of the things that's really fun about sex toys is that you start to learn, like as you're using the different shapes and sizes and stuff, some positions work much better than others. With the harness, some of the positions, depending on the dildo we're using, can be really difficult to kind of get 2 in at the same time because your penis naturally as the man, like where it's placed on your pelvic, sits back a little bit in relation to like above that area, right? The pelvic and a little bit of the stomach that's above the where your penis would sit. So the harness kind of sits up there and so it sticks out a little bit further. So that can create some awkward kind of positions.
Yeah.
Trying to get everything to work out. So we've learned to use different positions with it. And a lot of times, like when we're using that one vibrator, we're on our side, right? So like you'll be on your right side, I'm on my right side, kind of like we're spooning. and then that dildo's going in, and then I'm kind of coming in from like underneath it. So what happens is the dildo is actually like hitting the underside of my penis, which is the most sensitive part of the male penis, right? Because it kind of hits that underside like up towards the head, where it's super, super sensitive, and the vibrations feel awesome.
Yeah, that's a win-win.
Yeah. And so I think that's just a situation where, like you were saying, you get the experience of the vibration, the double stuff. So you get that real full feeling. And then there's a lot of stimulus things kind of going on. And technically you can hold the vibrator and that frees up a hand for me, or you can use your hand to stimulate the clitoris. So there's all sorts of different things that you can do to really enhance the areas that you're stimulating and where the pleasure is coming from. So that stuff is like so much fun.
Yeah, it's a lot of fun.
The harness is fun. You do feel a little stupid when you first put it on as
It's
the guy.
the cutest thing.
But
It looks so cute in the harness.
I don't know if that really goes. Cute and harness. I don't know if they should collide in the same sentence.
I have an image in my mind right now with the little straps on the harness and
when we
your
first
butt.
used it.
Oh my God.
Yeah, I got off the bed and I was walking out to go to the bathroom, and she just burst out laughing. She's like, "Oh my God, look at those straps on your ass."
I saw like your cheeks hanging out. Reminded me of the movie Dodgeball with those outfits that they played in. It just was
I think this is yours, Daddy.
freaking hysterical.
Yeah. If you've all watched the movie Dodgeball, you'll know exactly what we're talking about when they get the wrong uniforms and Vince Vaughn's wearing the choker necklace that says Daddy. Oh my God, that's too funny. But yeah, I mean, it does feel a little bit like 50 Shades of Grey type of outfit, right? Or something like that.
Yeah,
But
it's just so unique. And sometimes, if I'm tired or I'm thinking that we're going to have a quiet night and I see that, I'm like, no, not the harness, because I know it's going to be a wild time.
yeah, I sometimes I'll sneak upstairs and get in bed before she does, and I have the harness with a dildo in it, and she rolls over to cuddle to me, and all of a sudden she feels feels the dildo, and the covers come ripping down. It's like, oh no, not the harness! It's not an everyday thing, and you'll hear her say that in all the episodes that we do.
Yeah,
about
some
so many
things are
things.
not an everyday thing. That's
Some things are-
definitely not an
Or
everyday
or
thing.
it'll be like, no, it's Monday. This isn't a Monday thing. But I'm like, yeah, you're going to say the same thing when we get to Friday, but you're lying.
And I do sort of lie about it. Like I joke about it, just because I know the experience is going to be mind blowing. And if I'm tired or got other stuff on my mind, I'm not always sure I can handle it, but I usually power through.
But I mean, we talk all the time too about, you need to have fun in the bedroom. Not everything can be so serious and so rigid, right? And we talk all the time. I don't remember where I heard it, but it was like a sex expert, a doctor, who said if you're just not laughing during sex, you're usually doing something wrong.
Yeah.
And so we've had a lot of, I think, laughs and fun times with the toys, right? Something silly happens and it's like, we still talk about these things together and we still laugh about these things together. And I just think, aside from enhancing the whole sexual experience and the benefits that we talked about earlier with more sexual desire, overall better relationship satisfaction, all those things are great, but so is the experiences and the laughter that comes from having sex together, right? With these toys and the things that happen that make it funny and unique. And
Yeah,
those
we
things-
have had a lot of fun with them. We've had a lot of laughs.
Yeah. So, I mean, that's a lot of fun. And that kind of leads us into some of the reasons why couples need to really consider having sex toys in the bedroom. And this might be something that even for women out there, you may think, I just can't imagine. Like, I can't imagine buying these things, but you can go online and do it, right? That's the great thing.
Yeah, so that has changed a lot, right? So we've talked before about back in the day, picking up porn in the back corner of the video store. And it was the same thing to buy a sex toy. I mean, you had to pick it out in the novelty store, bring it to the register, pay for it. Other people were there buying other whoopee cushions and other funny things. And it was awkward and people felt embarrassed by it. And now they do sell them in stores. They even sell them in Target and other stores like that. There are
Yeah, they
certain
do actually. Target does
varieties
have a
of them.
section.
But for the cooler, more intricate ones, more realistic ones, you buy them all online and they come to your house in an unnamed box.
Right. And that's like Pink Cherry, right? That's one of the things that we talk about in the opening of the show is Pink Cherry is like one of those sites.
Yeah.
You can go on in the privacy of your own home. You don't have to worry about anyone seeing you. It's not going to show up in a cardboard box with a big picture of a dick on the side, right? Where all your neighbors are like, oh yeah, I know what's happening in the house.
All very discreet.
Right. And so it's all super, super discreet, and you can get whatever you want. You can search for whatever you want. And that's one of the things, like if you and your partner are going to do this, you're talking about it, sit down together and look at some products and pick out something together. And that's all part of building that closeness in the relationship, right? That's part of the communication. That's part of the openness. Like, yeah, I think I would like this. Like, this is something that excites me. Like, this looks fun. This might be a good time to talk about your fantasies too.
And we've both also like looked at it together, but then purchased things separately. So
yeah, we haven't actually bought anything.
Something
together.
is coming and you don't know what it is, or I don't know what it is. And there's anticipation for a couple of days. And it's fun. There's really nothing negative about it. It's all good.
It is. So let's talk about some of those great things that come from using sex toys in the bedroom. One, we kind of touched on this already, but it takes the pressure off the woman to orgasm, right? A lot of women have a lot of pressure to feel like they have to orgasm. Otherwise, their partner is going to be emotionally devastated that they couldn't please their lady, right? Well, this is gonna help that situation, because now the woman who has trouble orgasming through vaginal penetration, you're going to be able to give her some different ways of stimulating her, whether it's the clitoris, anus, nipples, whatever she likes. Get a toy that just enhances that experience. There's nothing wrong with that. And if that's what she needs, I mean, ultimately at the end of the day, do you want her to be happy and sexually satisfied, or do you want her to like roll over and be like, oh man,
yeah,
I just want to come. Okay? So it takes the pressure off the woman. And of course, if it takes the pressure off the woman, she's far more likely to orgasm, right, than holding that pressure in and being nervous and being anxious, because that's just going to be like an orgasm blocker, isn't it?
Yeah, it's very stressful, right? And we've seen a show recently on YouTube that follows some couples on their sex journeys. And this one woman finally was able to...
Oh, this is the Caitlin V show on... what's the show? It was on through Amazon.
Good Sex.
Yeah, Good Sex on through Amazon on like the Discovery Plus channel.
Okay, that's what it was.
Yeah. But Caitlin V is on YouTube. She has a lot of great videos. But yeah, the show we were watching, Good Sex, is on the Discovery Plus channel. Yep.
Yeah. So they follow a couple, and the woman has a hard time having an orgasm vaginally, and they use a toy, right? And a lot of it's in her head, right? So she's stressed out about it, and then once it happens, it happens. But the toy takes that stress off. So if you don't come, you can use the toy. If you do come, you can still use it, or you don't have to. It's just another avenue. And it is a way less pressure for both, actually.
It is. And I think as guys, I think it's hard for guys to understand how much pressure affects women compared to it does men. Some men, it will affect more depending on the amount of pressure. They might have a hard time ejaculating. They might have a hard time getting hard and staying hard, or something along those lines. But I think as a general rule, stress, nervousness, anxiety affects a woman's ability to orgasm far greater than it does a man's. And I think that's why it's hard for men to understand that, because we can have a lot of pressure, but still get to the end result.
Yeah.
Whereas women, it's like, it really is tough to overcome. It is, isn't it?
Yeah. I mean, so I've been told.
Yeah, you wouldn't know.
Not an issue for me, but we did talk, you and I have spoken also about how a lot of women fake it because they aren't able to reach the orgasm. So they fake it, which is, leading maybe to some resentment or other issues. But if you have the toys and they help you get there, it's all good.
Yeah. And we'll talk about that all the time. Like I'm a big believer is I would rather know a woman is not orgasming than have her lie about it, because if you don't know something's broke, then you can't fix it, right? And those, while difficult conversations, need to be had, because this is all part of the openness and trust and communication. And while it is difficult to have, in the long run, you guys will be so much better off and so much stronger for it.
Yeah.
Number two, or the second reason why you should use toys, is what you kind of touched on very quickly, Allison, is it's less pressure on the man too, because now he doesn't have to feel like, all right, I know she, can't come from, vaginal penetration, but I'm going to make it happen. I'm going to do everything I can, right? I'm going to eat her out for a little while. I'm going to touch her. I'm going to do all the right things to try to get her going, push her buttons. And all of a sudden he now feels all this pressure. And now we can really just start to create a really awkward sexual experience for all parties because it's just not happening. And now he's going to get upset and he's going to feel like crap because he's feeling like, why can't I please you? And she's going to be like, I told you I can't come from vaginal penetration. So sex toys are just going to help that along again, right? It's just going to take the pressure off everyone. So everyone can just feel more satisfied and have a much more positive experience.
Yeah, much more enjoyable.
Sex toys allow the woman potentially to have multiple orgasms. And I know most women out there really don't care about that, right? You hate multiple orgasms, right? Obviously, I'm
the
just
more
joking.
the merrier.
I don't know if that's ever been uttered. Those words have ever been uttered out of a woman's mouth. No, I don't need a multiple orgasm. I'm good with just one.
No, right. That and the toys definitely do help in that area.
Yeah, absolutely. So, I mean, it can really, really be stimulating for them. So great stuff there. Number 4, exploration leads to hotter sex, right? So if you're using the toys and maybe you've sat down and talked about fantasies a little bit, you can explore those, you can role play those. That can lead to some really hot sex, does it not?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it takes it to a whole new level.
And we've talked about, role play a little bit here on this show and things that we've done. And it's a lot of fun. I mean, it's definitely a lot of fun, can create some really, really sexy experiences. Number 5, it encourages trying new positions. We touched on that a little earlier, right? Using the harness. Not every position is wonderful. It can be hard to get the dildo and yourself both inside the holes that you're trying to penetrate. And so you might need to try some different positions and experiment, but that is all part of the fun part of sex, right? That's the exploration. And that too is going to really kind of lend itself to more communication and more openness about what's happening, because you're going to have to talk about that together. Okay, we need to try something different, right? It's going to create those laughs in the bedroom.
Yeah, we've had a lot of laughs over the spit roast.
Yeah, the spit roast. You might need to explain that though, for some. Not everyone may know that term.
Okay, and I didn't, so you had to explain it to me. So, I have this fantasy of being with 2 men at once, which most people would consider the double penetration, which that was the original vision in my mind, that feeling that I thought I would like to try, that I thought I would enjoy. If you're in those situations and in that type of setup, there's obviously different positions that can be used because women obviously have multiple holes that could be entered. And so the spit roast is when there's 1 penis in the vagina and 1 penis in the mouth. So we were able to do that with a toy where you had the toy stuck to the top, like the head of the bed. Right.
So this was stuck on the wall with the suction cup, like we were talking about.
With the suction cup, and I backed into that, and then you were in front of me, so I could, suck on you. And that was a very realistic feeling experience, right? So especially because you were the one that was in front of me, right? And the pretty realistic dildo was stuck to the wall behind me. That's not a position that you can do other than that way. I mean, you could have reached around me and put the dildo in, which would also work. But this was very realistic. And if that's your fantasy or something that you think would feel good, I mean, it's just another position you can use a toy for.
Right. And I think, we talk all the time, right, about when you're exploring these things, we always recommend like blindfolds. And so that's a great sex toy to get. And you may not think of that as a sex toy, but a blindfold is really a great option it's really a great aspect or a toy or whatever you want to call it to bring into your collection, add to your toy, because there's nothing, I think, more cool than taking away someone's senses. And, every once in a while, like I did something, I think I was doing the massage or something where I put headphones in your ears and turned the music way up, and I put a blindfold on you so you couldn't hear or see me.
Yeah.
All you could feel were my hands.
Yeah.
Right. And that becomes very like erotic feeling, right? And
Because I
then
have no idea where you are. Like I can't
right,
see you.
you can
I
just
can't hear
feel.
you, right? So I have no idea where you are, what you're going to touch next, that type of thing. And I think actually when we did the spit roast, I think I did wear a blindfold. So
Yeah,
just to
that's what I was
make
getting
it
to as
very
well. Right.
realistic. And I've used it before when we've done other role plays just so that you can really get more into the role
You can
and
see
to
the scene better, right?
and
It's
get
just
into the
something like you can
scene.
just visualize better. Is that
Yeah, because you can pretend that you're in the scenario that you're playing out versus in your own room. But tons of different options and tons of fun.
yeah? And I think too, and you can. This is what I see, and obviously you'll be able to answer this better and speak to this better. But the fact that the dildo is stuck to the wall and I'm in front of you, you know at that point that I'm not touching it, right? So I feel like it might be just a little bit of a different experience when you know I'm holding it and working it,
Right.
as opposed to like holy shit, like I'm being penetrated right now from behind and he's not touching it. So like I think it makes the scene feel a little bit more realistic.
Absolutely.
Is that
Yeah.
accurate? I mean, is that fair?
Yeah. And that's why that particular scene did feel very realistic because you were in front of me and at one point you were even lying down. So
Right.
I knew that the penetration from behind was no way coming from you. So it made it feel very real.
And then you can kind of like, we can flip you around where I can penetrate you and like you would be sucking the dildo.
Yeah.
Right. So it's just like, you can like do this whole thing. Like if your partner is into like the whole being manhandled, right? We talk about that a lot, right? That's kind of an exciting thing. That can be really exciting for most women fantasize about that. We're actually going to be having a show. I don't know when it's going to air because we have a lot of shows right now on the books that we're going through and we're taping and we're doing all these things. So I don't want to talk about when it'll come out right now. It will be at some point, but it will be talking about that whole female, I have a rape fantasy and is that weird type of thing.
Mm-hmm.
And we'll go into much greater depth about why it's not a rape fantasy and what the difference is. But in researching that show, it's amazing how many women have that fantasy of basically having sex against their will, but with consent, right? That's the important thing here is that it's sex against your will, but you're consenting to that.
Yeah. And there's that whole manhandling thing. There's multiple levels to that too, right? So there's
like being grabby, right?
yeah, being
Grabbing the boobs
grabby
hard
but for the female kind of like surrendering herself to whatever type of movement is going to take place, whatever type of grabbing, moving around, flipping over, whatever. And there is something super hot about that.
It's like the
Super hot.
burglar, right? Like we did,
Yeah.
we've talked about that too before, I believe is, like we did the whole burglar thing where I dressed up in a ski mask and attacked her, me and my partner and, and yeah, like did the double penetration to her and stuff. But it was like, I think it's one of those things, right? It's taboo. And I've always thought that was like super hot, like the whole reluctance thing.
Yeah.
And that's what that kind of falls under. Like, no, this is taboo. Like you're in my house. Like you're an intruder. You're a robber, right? I'm not supposed to have sex with you. And it's definitely not supposed to feel good. But then all of a sudden it's like you just give in to
The woman gives in to because it feels good. And
right.
Yeah.
And then she becomes a crazy girl, a dirty girl. So let's keep going here. So it encourages new positions, right? All great things. Number 6, kind of what we're kind of alluding to in all these conversations is it can bring your fantasies to life, right? So great way to do the double penetration if you want, do the, being taken against your will with consent type of thing. Whatever your fantasy is, you can use these toys to kind of enhance that experience and kind of live out that fantasy without really doing it. Because as we'll talk all the time as well, a lot of people have a fantasy. It doesn't mean that you want to actually do it in real life because there's a lot of consequences that can come with that. There's a lot of issues that can come with that. It's very hard to find people who are trustworthy in real life to live out your fantasies. And so some people venture out and try the fantasies in real life and come back super disappointed because it was like, this isn't what I had in mind at all. And the last one is buying them and using them together, like we were talking about earlier, is just great for bonding with your partner. And it really just helps promote that really strong emotional and physical connection because you guys are being super open, you're communicating well, and it's just a great experience to do together. It's like a problem solving together, isn't it? which dick do you need?
Yeah, there's 45 dicks here. Which one do I start with?
And right now you're problem solving as to what dick she might really like. And then you start to be like, this seems kind of weird.
Yeah.
But that, those are the 7 reasons why you really need to consider using sex toys with your partner. Anything about sex toys that we haven't covered? Like, definitely, right? Couple tips, right? We always talk about this, right? If you're getting anything for the anus, make sure that the sex toy has the bottom of it is going to have like a big round part, because the anus is not a cul-de-sac, right? So whatever goes in there, if it goes in there and gets lost, it can work its way all the way through your body.
It's going to keep going. Yeah.
Right.
It's not a cul-de-sac. It's like the freeway.
You might wake up the next morning with that dildo in your mouth and be like, what is that?
Yeah.
Got a little something right here.
So anything for the anus either has to have like that wider bottom piece. A lot of times it's like a T so that it can't go in. It's not straight. It's like a T. Sometimes they have a handle.
Holy moly.
Right. So there's some of those toys, the glass toys that we have that have like a curved handle on the end. The anal beads usually have a handle, like a ring on the end. So they can't go in. But the anal play obviously is a ton of fun. And that's definitely something we'll talk about again in the future. But when you go onto those sites seeking toys, the anal toys often have multiple sizes. You start small, you get bigger, you get to a more comfortable level.
You don't go something huge.
You don't go all the way to the hugest one first. It may ruin your experience and just be something you don't want to try again because it's not fun.
You're killing me.
Right. And I don't want to go real deep into this, but just like, it's good to give you guys like a couple, if you've never done anal sex before, it's good to give a couple tips and tricks for a safe and enjoyable experience. We're going to have, again, another show. Don't know when it's going to air, but it's going to be our anal sex guide. And it's going to really go through everything that you need to do for preparing to have anal sex if you're new to it. And maybe you're not new to it, but maybe you did it once, had a bad experience, you're afraid to try it again. But a lot of things can go wrong with anal sex, right? The first time to really kind of ruin the experience. But
the position's really important too. And we'll go into that when we can. But the toy is a good way to start. So some of those toys are smaller, obviously, than a penis. They're not as long. They're smaller in girth. And you can grow and get bigger sizes. And then they have some that are small but also have a vibrator. So that feels delicious.
And you brought up the glass one, which is a cool one, because if you probably thinking what I thought when Allison initially showed me this toy and told me it was made of glass, I'm thinking, this sounds like a freaking nightmare.
Sounds dangerous.
Yeah, this sounds like I see broken glass, I see anal bleeding, vagina bleeding, penis bleeding, whatever. But it's not like that. I mean, they're made very solidly and safely, obviously. But what's cool about the glass toys is that they, I don't know if the right word is conduct heat, but basically they hold heat, right? They react to your body's heat. So the glass toys can get warmer, and that creates a unique sensation for you as the woman. It's an amazing
sensation. Yeah, the glass toys were, confused me a little bit at first as well, because they're just solid glass. Some of them do have ridges in them. Some of them are shaped in a penis shape, but they're smaller. They're not like a realistic penis size. They're smaller. Some of them are longer, but they're very thin with ridges, and they're made of glass. But when used right and there's a good motion going to them, they do like warm up. The friction just really makes them warm up, and the sensation is super unique. Really, really cool feeling. So. Some of the companies throw them in for free when you spend a certain dollar amount, which is how we have a handful of them. But they are a lot of fun.
We were talking about the different dildos and vibrators earlier. I mean, aside from the fact that they have like the veins and the texture and the realistic kind of skin feels, you can even get dildos now that ejaculate. So like they actually have like a liquid that goes in them so that you can simulate ejaculation. So for you women that love a good facial, that's something that you could do. Obviously, that toy hasn't made its way into our collection yet, but we'll work on that. So I'm trying to think of any other toys, but again, with the anal sex, just make sure you have the toy that has the end that will prevent it from going into the anus. Make sure you get plenty of lube. And like Allison said, you would think maybe that doggy style is kind of like the preferred position for anal because that's what we tend to see in movies and different things. But the reality is that getting in that position that we were talking about earlier, where you're kind of in that spooning position where the man is behind you, that is probably one of the easiest ways to get introduced into anal, because that angle just seems to be a lot less intrusive.
Yeah,
For some reason.
that angle does seem to work a little bit better. And even the missionary angle can be okay as well. It just don't take it slow.
And the last piece of advice I'll give you on anal sex is use a condom. And the reason for that is if you're doing it and it hurts, or maybe you're doing it but you want to go back to vaginal penetration, you don't want to go from ass to vag without using the cover, because you're just going to transfer bacteria from the anus into the vagina. And that will be a surefire way for your partner not to want to do anal sex again.
Yeah.
If she gets a nasty UTI or a yeast infection.
Yeah, you use the condom while you're in the butt, and then take it off when you want to go in the vagina.
The only way you go into the anus without a condom is if you are committed and know you're going to finish there.
Right.
Otherwise, use the condom. It'll make everyone's life much better. All right, guys. I think that's where we're going to end today's show, though, on the sex toys. I hope if you haven't done it, or maybe you're just dipping your toes into it, this encourages you to get out there. Go over to Pink Cherry. Use the link that I provided. Pink Cherry, just full disclosure, will pay me a small commission for any sale that you have by using that link. However, there's no additional fees or cost to you. But those commissions that come from that, or come from ordering the 7 principles for making marriage work on Amazon, Amazon also pays me a small commission. Those are just little fees that we get here, which just helps in offsetting the cost of producing these shows. So we appreciate your support. We also appreciate you taking the time to sit in and listen with us. We hope you're learning a lot, and we hope you enjoy these shows. Don't forget, join the private Facebook group today and join the conversation. We'd love to have you. Other than that, we look forward to seeing everyone in the next show. Until then, be safe and stay kind.